A 200-ton airplane, flying 39,000 feet above the dark Atlantic Ocean, suddenly lost both engines. No power, no lights, no sound. Just silence. For the 306 people on board, this should have been the end. Because before this night, aviation history had never seen anything like it. And what happened next became one of the greatest survival stories ever recorded. August 23, 2001. Toronto Pearson International Airport was busy with late-night departures. Families heading on vacation, couples returning home, students traveling overseas. Among them was a routine overnight flight to Lisbon, Portugal. Air Transat Flight 236. On board were 293 passengers and 13 crew members. Most of them were Portuguese-Canadian families traveling for summer holidays. At 12:52 a.m., the Airbus A330 lifted off smoothly into the night sky. Everything was normal. The aircraft climbed to cruising altitude, 39,000 feet. Passengers ate dinner, watched movies, children fell asleep. Cabin lights dimmed. Outside, only darkness. Inside, complete calm. But what nobody knew was that this airplane was already doomed. Because 9 days earlier, a tiny mistake had created a ticking time bomb. During routine maintenance, technicians discovered metal particles in the engine oil system. The engine needed replacement. But there was a problem. The airline didn't have a spare engine available, so they borrowed one from the manufacturer. It looked identical, but it wasn't. Internally, the fuel and hydraulic lines had a slightly different design. Just millimeters of difference. A detail that would soon put hundreds of lives at risk. Under time pressure, technicians installed mismatched components together. Two metal tubes that were never meant to touch were now rubbing against each other. Every flight afterward, vibrations slowly wore down the fuel line, until eventually, it cracked. Back to August 24th. The aircraft was now flying over the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, far from any airport. At 4:38 a.m., fuel data showed something unusual. Fuel levels were dropping faster than expected. But there was no warning alarm, no leak detection system, nothing to tell the pilots what was really happening. Fuel was pouring into the ocean, over 13 tons per hour, silently. At 5:03 a.m., the crew noticed abnormal engine readings. They suspected a computer error, not a fuel leak. Then came another message, fuel imbalance. One wing had less fuel than the other. This sometimes happens. There's a standard procedure to fix it. But the crew made a critical mistake. Instead of following the checklist, they relied on memory. They opened a cross-feed valve, which unknowingly allowed fuel from both wings to drain out through the leak. The problem didn't just continue. It doubled. By 5:48 a.m., the pilots realized they wouldn't reach Lisbon. They declared a fuel emergency. The nearest land was the Azores Islands, a remote group of islands in the Atlantic. The destination, Lajes Air Base. But it was still hundreds of miles away, and fuel was almost gone. 6:13 a.m., altitude 34,000 feet. The right engine died. Complete fuel starvation. Now the aircraft had only one engine left. Passengers noticed a change in sound, but didn't know why. The pilots began descending toward the island, hoping the remaining engine would last long enough. It didn't. 6:26 a.m. 13 minutes later,
The second engine failed. Both engines gone. The cockpit screens went dark. Main electrical system shut down. Cabin lights turned off. The only power came from a small emergency turbine deployed into the airflow. Inside the cabin, people felt something was terribly wrong. The constant engine hum was gone. Only wind noise remained. A commercial jet had just become a giant glider. Flight attendants prepared passengers for a possible ocean ditching. Life jackets were distributed. Brace instructions given. Some passengers prayed. Some cried. Some held hands with strangers. Many believed they were going to die. Because ditching in the Atlantic at night almost never ends well. Hero pilot moment. But in the cockpit, Captain Robert Pichet stayed calm. He had experience flying small aircraft into remote locations. He knew one thing. Altitude equals distance. If he managed the glide perfectly, they might reach the runway. But he had only one chance. Too high? They overshoot. Too low? They crash into the ocean. No second attempt. No go around. Just one shot. Final approach. At 6:31 a.m., they were still 33 miles away. At 6:36, runway lights appeared in the distance. Hope. The aircraft continued descending silently toward land. Landing gear deployed, which created more drag. But it had to be done. The runway was approaching fast. Too fast. Without engine thrust, braking would be difficult. Landing. At 6:45 a.m., after gliding for nearly 19 minutes without engines, the aircraft touched down. Hard. Tires exploded. Sparks flew. Flames appeared near the landing gear. Passengers were thrown forward in their seats. But the plane stopped. And then, something incredible happened. People started clapping. All 306 people survived. Aftermath. There were only minor injuries. No fatalities. The event became known as the Azores Glider, one of the longest powerless flights ever performed by a commercial jet. Captain Pichet was called a hero worldwide, because against all odds, he brought everyone home alive. Ending. Sometimes survival isn't luck. It's skill, training, and the courage to stay calm when everything is falling apart. On that night over the Atlantic, 306 people were given a second chance at life, and aviation history was changed forever.